Good evening. Thank you for coming out. We'd like to start this evening with a word of prayer, so I'll ask you to please stand, and we'll welcome Dorette Dewey to lead us in prayer.
Good evening. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you and praise you for this opportunity that we can be here tonight in this meeting. I pray tonight you may just bless the speakers and all those who will have a part in this meeting tonight. May your will be done in everything. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. And as I said, welcome to all of you that are in the building with us this evening. And also welcome to all of those that are viewing us live at SXMTalk.com. And for those of you that are in the hall, those of you who have access to Blackberries, you can BB your friends, family, and all of them, and let them know that they can view this evening's session live at SXMTalk.com. This evening's proceedings, we're going to have two presentations, and then we'll have a question and answer session. I understand from the panelists that the intention this evening is to field as many questions as possible from you. So they're going to give very short addresses and then leave the rest of the evening for you to pose questions to them. Of course, this is an information session by the Nevis Reformation Party, and we have two persons with us this evening. We have the Honorable Hensley Daniel and Attorney General, the Honorable Patrice Nisbet. We'll begin with the first address by the Honorable Hensley Daniel, and he has been a politician since 2000. He has served as Deputy Premier and Minister of Health and Social Services in the Nevis Island government from 2006 until 2012. He's trained in education and social work, speaks 3 languages, English, French, and Spanish. From 1977 until 88, he served as a teacher and has been the Director of Social Services from 1991 through the year 2000 on the island of Nevis. At this time, I'd like you to please welcome the Honorable Hensley Daniel as he addresses the gathering.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tobias. And let me begin by thanking all of you for coming to share with us this session. I first want you to join me as Nevisians to congratulate Kyron Powell, playing cricket for the West Indies, making 2 centuries in 1 match and becoming only the 9th West Indian batsman to do so. Let's give him a round of applause. You know, we have a slogan which we use all the time, and it says, performance matters. So, performance matters, and Kyron from a small country, and those of you from Nevis would know they have said that he has made these 2 centuries in 1 match, but they have not yet said that he's from Nevis, and we want them to say so that it is understood that even though we are small, we are tall. And we want to extend those congratulatory sentiments to his parents, colleague Minister Carlisle Powell, and his mother Gillian Andre Powell. We want to congratulate his parents. They clearly had a very important role to play in that success. This evening we are here as members of the Nevis Island and representatives of the Nevis Island administration, led of course by the Honorable Joseph Parry, to share with you some of the issues that we have been dealing with over the last years and to have exchanges with you so that you have a better understanding of what we have been doing. I first want to begin by sharing with you very briefly an overview of the economy in Nevis. We are, of course, dominated by tourism. We have contributions, and a significant contribution from the financial services sector, construction, which is linked to tourism, and of course, agriculture. However, over the last 4 years, as everybody in the world knows, we have had a major decline in economic development across the world, Europe, North America, and as such, since we are part and parcel of the global community, we in Nevis too have been affected. But we were doubly affected in 2008 with the closure of the Four Seasons Hotel. And as you know, that meant that a large number of persons could not go to work. Now in government, we have to imagine that things will go wrong. Some things will go wrong, that there will be things like hurricanes and so on. But really preparing for this kind of economic downturn has been very, very challenging. Now, what has been the government's response? Government response has included what we call, just like President Obama, a stimulus package to build up the social infrastructure, largely schools, community centers, police stations and barracks, school kitchens, in an effort to keep the construction sector going. And that was an important response from us. Very important, we also worked to ensure the reopening of the Four Seasons Hotel. We have been challenged by high fuel prices, and as such, we introduced in the OECS in Nevis the first ever wind farm in the whole of the OECS. First wind farm in Nevis established. In addition to that, we vigorously pursue the geothermal project because we are persuaded that we could transform the economy in Nevis if we develop alternative energy. And all the studies show that we have the capacity to generate some 600 megawatts of energy. And when you consider that it takes 10 megawatts of energy, 10 to 12 megawatts of energy to run Nevis, you can imagine the amount we have that we can sell to several other countries. We have spent a great deal of time focusing on education and training because we have said in our various programs and various forums that our first priority is education, our second priority is education, and our third priority is education. Because we believe running a country coming from slavery and colonialism, we have no option but to provide the people with skills, with training, and with high levels of education, so that when there are opportunities in the economy, they will be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And so we have a range of programs in education. I won't detail all of them, but I will simply tell you that for the first time in our history, the government of Nevis funded the tuition of students going to college and university across the Caribbean and the United States. First time. So that students entering a college, they are accepted at the college, and having been accepted, the government made a policy to assist every single student who goes to university and college. And as a result, we have done so for more than 200 persons since 2006. And our thinking is simple. An investment in education pays the highest interest, and we take a cue from a late president in Guyana, Forbes Burnham, who used to say, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And so we continued with training. We have a program where we send our young men to Trinidad for 3 months to learn skills in carpentry, masonry, auto mechanics, welding, a whole range of skills which are now needed across the world. And if you follow what's happening in America, the governments, the state governments and our local governments in the United States are saying that it is absolutely necessary to provide people with skills. Nowadays they're saying that people with these skills can earn more money than the people who have university training and so on. So we are on cue. We are taking the approach like the Germans, who continue to spend money to invest in continuous training and apprenticeship programs. And we're also doing like the Netherlands, where they are providing opportunities for persons to learn different skills. That is why the difficulties in the world have not hit them as hard, because they have continuous apprenticeship training programs with private and public sectors. And in the Netherlands, they allow people to do, they facilitate the learning of different skills, so that if there is a slowing up in one area, you can use your skills in another. And those are the kinds of things that we are seeking to do for our young people through education. We believe, quite frankly, that our responsibility is to ensure that we provide the people of the country with enough opportunities for education. I will tell you very briefly on the question of healthcare. We can look at them from the services point of view and also from an equipment point of view. We have in Nevis, for the first time, and I believe you will think that this deserves a particular round of applause. Those of you who were around when the Christina sank, remember that there was no doctor on Nevis, and that you were being asked, motorists were being asked to go to the airport, put on their lights, so that Dr. Simmons and his team could come over to help save the lives of some of our brothers and sisters. As I speak to you, we have 19 doctors in training from Nevis who will, within the next 4 to 5 years, return to Nevis to provide that service. Now, I think that deserves a special round of applause. And every single one of them has been assisted in training. There are 5 in Cuba who are fully funded by the Cuban government and the Nevis government. And the range of specialties are spread across the spectrum, and we expect to have them back. This is unusual, coming 32 years after, 40 years after, the Christina disaster. We have also, for the first time in Nevis since we got to government, the women here would understand that. We have a pediatrician in Nevis for the first time since 2006. That's never happened before. And we have orthopedic surgeons available to Nevis, ophthalmologists, eye care specialists, all of them available to Nevis. And so, I will tell you, in relation to the training, we haven't trained a pharmacist in 20 years. It's an unusual thing. And we're now training one funded by the government and the second one in preparing for training. We have to train our people. That is why our development is anchored on human resource capability. Also, we have developed programs for overseas medical care with the government of Cuba, since a large number of the persons don't have health insurance. People have been going to Cuba, and as I speak to you, there are persons there receiving high-class, high-quality medical attention in Cuba. There is also a program in Panama, and as I speak to you, there are persons there receiving quality medical care. And that has to do with the government moving outside the box to provide for the needs of the people. We have increased the equipment pool in health services. And so when we combine the services with the equipment, we see that we get a superior quality health care to what we met 6 years ago. We have a heavy focus on prevention because just like all of the countries of the Caribbean, death in Nevis is related to complications of diabetes and hypertension. So we are getting our young people to eat better, to drink more water, and to connect them with the food that we produce. When Patrice comes, he's going to speak to you a little bit about agriculture, the new things we are doing. But the idea is to change the eating patterns and ensure that we reduce the incidence of non-communicable diseases. What has happened is that in the Caribbean, we have spent a lot of money on the communicable diseases like AIDS and so on, and forgetting the diabetes and the hypertension and heart disease and stroke. And those are the main causes of death in our communities. So we are responding to that with a heavy focus on prevention through our health education and health promotion units. With regard to public utilities, we've spent a lot of money building roads, improving the drainage. I want you to bear in mind that developers in Nevis over the years have sold people lands without proper roads and without drainage. When it rains heavily, the people are marooned in their homes, and it falls to the responsibility of the government to deal with that. As I speak to you, we are engaging in a major road project in Charlestown in the Stony Grove area, coming down from Hamilton to take all the water out of Stony Grove. And it involves some major engineering works, in particular dealing with the water, because persons with homes in the Stony Grove area, the lower Stony Grove area, have been having real trouble as a result of the construction of the Rams building, the Caribbean Cove building. All of these have led to tremendous difficulties. These are private developers, but it falls the responsibility of the government to deal with these problems to accommodate the citizens. So floodwater control is a major problem. We've had to do some work like that in Charlestown, and we have to begin some work in Cotton Ground, because over the years, persons have sold lands on a promise that the road will come. And I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. So we've had to continue to do that in public utilities. We've added more water in Nevis. Those of you from my era know that we carried water so much that we could put anything on our heads and it doesn't fall off. We don't have to do that anymore, because since we've been in government, we got into a process of deep drilling where we dug deep into the surface in the aquifers that had a lot of water. And as a result, we are able to provide an extra 1 million gallons. When we got to government, the same amount of water we produce every day was the same amount we use. So if there was something happening, we had a shortage in some areas. So we have now a better situation where we have an extra 1 million gallons of water provided by the government. At the level of the social development, I have been the minister responsible all over these years. And I'm not going to mention all of the things we've done, because I want to give you the chance to raise questions. But I want to point out just a few things. As it said in my bio, I used to be the director of social services in Nevis. And I had this major difficulty with young girls getting pregnant and having to leave school. And so you get a child at 15 and nobody to look after the child. And then at 17 you get another. At 19 you get another. And in quite a number of instances, by 24, 25 you have 5 or 6 children for 4 or 5 different people. And that in and of itself, when you look at antisocial behavior in the community, when you look at the problem of crime and so on, you could see the connection between the inability to manage these children at an early age and provide for them. That today is creating some of the difficulties we have with crime and antisocial behavior. So we got to government in July 2006, and by September, we made it, the cabinet made a decision to stop this process. We were the only country in the English-speaking Caribbean still doing it. In fact, in St. Kitts, since 1998, they had stopped it. And they were getting money from the United Nations programs to help the young people. So we stopped it in Nevis, and a number of young people have gotten their education with their child, since the doctors say nothing goes wrong with your brain normally when you get pregnant. So there is no real reason to stop you from learning. So we stopped it. And I would like you all to pay some attention to that. What we have done in effect is to improve the life chances of all these people so that they no longer have to get pregnant. And the thinking was, because you allow them to come back to school, everybody is going to go out and have babies. Not the case. In fact, since we did that, teenage pregnancy has reduced in Nevis as a result of that, because you now have options and you don't have to worry about continuing your education. That's an important decision we made. We have also done a set of programs for young people and children. I won't give you all of them. I want to point to one other thing. In Nevis, and I'm sure you live in St. Maarten, and you would have found it strange, we had very few things named after the people of Nevis. And so we started to rename this society, rename a number of important landmarks, to recast the society in the image of the local people. The first one was the El Camino Willett Park. He was the first Leeward Island player to make the West Indies team, and nothing in the country was named after him. This by a premier who played cricket with him for most of his cricketing career. But he put the airport after him. That was the only thing named after anybody. So we said, no. We have to get other people to get things named after them. So Willett, the netball complex after Dora Stevens and Sisley Hall, the road after Swanston, the Treasury building after Arthur Evelyn, the First Minister of Tourism, and so on. Took the preschool in St. Thomas's after Inez France, who did all that work for early childhood. Of course there are other people, and every year so far, we have done something on National Heroes Day, which is a holiday in Nevis. We renamed the community center at Combermere after Franklin Brown, that outstanding educator. I'm saying that the country must do this, so that I see roads here named after people. That is to tell me that these people made a contribution to the society, where we have to do the same thing in Nevis too. So we have done that over the years, and we'll continue to do so. Because as it stands, it's a very serious matter. The first premier of Nevis, the late Dr. Simeon Daniel, we have nothing in the country named after him. And that's not good. And we intend to correct that very shortly after discussions with the family. And we know what they want done, and we must have it done. He made a contribution to the society. Every other country does that. And that is something which you as citizens living in another country see them doing. Well, we must do the same thing too. We have a road in Cotton Ground to be named after Livingston Sargent, another part to be named after Eustace Tessie Nisbet, a road to be named after Stuart Williams and Carl Tuckett, and a road after Berlin Clark. All of those we have to do. The issue is that they're roads, so we have to fix them up nicely before we rename them. And we are going to rename the park in Cotton Ground after Derek Parry, and the field in Jessops after Keith Atherton, all the test players. When you come to Nevis, it's no longer Prince Charles Street. Prince Charles don't have no street up there. Those streets must be named after people who look like me and you, and who work like me and you. And that is a very important issue for us. We have built up a number of community centers in Nevis. You might have seen them online, because the idea is we have to help parents with their children. The good Lord has given everybody the opportunity to get children. But being able to get children and manage children are two different things. We have learned that. So we have to help. So the centers provide focal points for the community to do training in parenting, computer education, reading through the libraries, and training in the performing arts and so on. All of these are important. And so, from that level. And of course, you will know that our senior citizens program is the best in the region. When you look at what we are doing with our seniors, if I start from the bottom up, I will tell you, we celebrate the milestones. So when they reach 65, 70, 75, 80, there's a party. And everybody is happy. The families do it. We say to them, thank you for your contribution to the development of the society. They paved the way for us. So we owe a debt of gratitude to them. So we have to do it. We have a home health care program where we take the seniors, where we take people to visit the seniors. We hire them. You comb their hair, you make sure they take their medication, you read the Bible, you sing songs with them, and as a result, we add years to their life and life to their years. We also have a recreational program. They were all at the Fountain Community Center. Last month was Seniors Month. And they all went there to look at themselves in all the activities they did. Your friends in Nevis might have told you about the massive program they had at the Performing Arts Center for seniors. Dancing, enjoying themselves. We have taken the seniors from the windows, looking out to see if anybody pass, and engaging them. So if you go to Nevis, every day of the week, the seniors are out in Cotton Ground on Tuesdays, in St. James on Wednesday, on Mondays, in St. John's on Wednesdays. They're out socializing with each other and enjoying themselves at 80 and 90. And they have an exercise program where they're learning to, where they're doing their exercises to keep fit. And finally, they have a steel pan orchestra. If you are in Nevis anytime during the Christmas season, you will see them playing. And they tell me when they show up for practice, they show up on time. They clean up after they leave. And they follow instructions carefully. Isn't that wonderful? You have to give them a round of applause, man. So, in culture, I'm only going to mention two things. One, we established the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation to take care of culture and all matters related to culture, and to make sure that we save money by maximizing the benefits and reducing costs. And the second thing we've done, we have established in Nevis a performing arts center. When you come to Nevis, make sure you see it. It is Broadway, come to Nevis. It is the same center that you will see in Broadway in New York that you see in Nevis. It's a little smaller because the population is smaller. But it has all the elements and components of a modern performing arts center. Make it your visit next time. Put it on your must-visit list when you come to Nevis. I want to say, as I look to the future, we are going, having done all of that, we are going to do the hotel at Herbert's Beach, Ocean Reef Hotel. We're going to do the Amman Hotel, and we have $1 million to spend already on the improvement in Bath Stream, clearing the silt, rebuilding the home, and making private baths and dredging it properly. We have a project also to develop Saddle Hill as a nature trail so you could access it. The money is available for those already. In health, we are going to put down a new river and as a medical center at New River. That center is a cosmetology center. So if you want your nose straightened and so on, we are bringing the best there. It's a $16 million US project. When you look at where it is to be sited, when you look, what's that, west, you will see the sea. And when you look east, you will see the mountain. That in and of itself is therapy. So you don't have to worry. It's pure sunlight and the gently rolling hills. That in and of itself will help you to recuperate fast. So that project is very advanced. And we expect to have it done very, very shortly. We should, if all things go well, have some things happening before the year is done. Because all the preparatory work has been done. We have in Nevis, under construction, a urology center. It is going to be the urology center for the Eastern Caribbean. That is to deal with men who have the difficulties with diseases of the urinary tract, prostate trouble, and so on. As I speak to you, Dr. Thwaites is in Nevis, he's a urologist, and we are building the center. We already have what they call the green light laser, which only Barbados and Cuba have. We have a machine to vaporize the prostate, and we have a machine to make the incisions smaller. All of that is happening under your government. And we are going to have that commissioned shortly because it's under construction. It's funded by the government. We have a number of persons who have had to travel to St. Maarten and Anguilla for dialysis care. I formed the Renal Society. I was the first president of the Renal Society in 1998. Because as head of the Social Services Department, people used to come for me to assist them with their relatives who were sick. You see, when you move to politics, you don't go to when you're in government, you make recommendations. When you go to become the minister now, you actually are supposed to implement and do. So you move up from recommending to doing. So what we've done is to buy a dialysis unit. It is going to be in Nevis in January, early January. The unit will have 2 machines and allow for the treatment of people, because the kinds of money we have had to spend to travel and treat people overseas means that we have to correct the problem. That is going to be done very shortly. I also want to say to you that we are going to establish a national health insurance scheme to cover everybody. You know, if you are in Nevis, you will hear persons saying that they want to help you with medical care, and so they put on a barbecue. I want to say to you, if you take all the chicken from all the supermarkets in Nevis, and you barbecue all of them and you sell them, you can only pay for 1 night at a hospital for treatment. So what we are saying is we are going to establish this scheme in conjunction with the federal government to ensure that persons can get medical coverage when they are sick. You can't continue this business of trying to raise money, going to the bank to borrow a loan to pay for cancer treatment. If everybody is covered, everybody gets some treatment, including evacuation by ambulance and medical coverage. It's very, very important for us to do this. And we seek your support on that, because we know you understand the Dutch have had a very long history of social development. We're going also to do a $30 million water project to replace all the tanks in Nevis. All those water tanks, some of them are leaking. When we got to government, they were all silted up to 4 and 5 feet of silt. So what we're going to do now, build some new ones that are expandable, so that if you build a 1 million gallon tank, you can, and you want it to store more, you can expand it. We are doing that project with the CDB. There is also, you might have heard, we are doing a petrocarbon storage facility down at Pembroke on the southern side of the island. The only thing that is down there is what we call locally kosher. It's a kasher and donkeys. So we think we should replace those two things with something that can generate revenue, provide for people, and ensure that we make some money, add another revenue stream to the country. I think you have one, there's one in Statia, and so we're going to pursue that with a view to diversifying the economy. Because as I said in the beginning, we have had the challenges, and so we have to diversify. Also, the major project to diversify the Nevis economy and make us the Saudi Arabia of the Caribbean is the geothermal project. But I want you to know that we could have gone further already with the project in terms of funding. When you have banks like Scotiabank showing an interest in funding it, but you've had an opposition in Nevis. Imagine this: black people in Nevis telephone white people in America to tell them not to fund the project. Telephone people at Exim Bank, Export-Import Bank, to tell them not to fund the project. You can imagine? So we have a situation where we have had stops and starts as a result. The project is going to transform the lives of the people of Nevis. Geothermal energy, we can sell to St. Kitts, St. Maarten, all the saints around, everywhere, because we are certain that it will translate into real growth and development. We have done all of the studies, and we have a geothermal, we passed the geothermal development bill in the parliament in Nevis with the view to ensuring that future generations of Nevisians can enjoy an even better quality of life as a result of having renewable energy, because it is steam, and so you take it, you process it into electricity, and it goes on and on and on. It's not like oil, which is finite. But I'm saying to us, this is a national effort, and we seek your support in this regard, because it is absolutely necessary for us to go forward with this project. A project that will result in a high level of revenue for the country and a high level of development and all other spin-off effects. For instance, the only reason that Trinidad is the richest country in the Caribbean is because it has oil. It has energy. So it can attract investment because energy is a big part of the equation. If, for instance, you had that kind of energy in St. Maarten, can you imagine how you can reduce the cost to the hotels, cost to the homeowner? We pay a fuel surcharge in Nevis. Immediately, when you implement the geothermal project, the surcharge goes. That in and of itself cuts the cost of energy in half. And so this is a national effort. This is not about who is CCM and who is N.R.P, because the people in Washington don't care what color you are. They don't mind. But we cannot afford any more stalling on this. We have had a court matter to move some of the obstacles out of the way. The United States government is looking to pursue alternative energy because the fuel cost is too high. Well, if they are doing that, why not Nevis? and ours is well established. The wells are there. All that is required is the processing. And so we seek your support on that. I want to end by saying that when we are in government, we're there to address the concerns of people. And we take on board the concerns, and we have done the best we could in a difficult economic environment. And I want to say that the Nevisians right across the diaspora must continue to engage in what happens in Nevis, because it is important, as many of you are registered voters, it's important for you to have a sense of what we are doing for the young, what we are doing for the not so young, and what we are doing for the senior citizens. It speaks a lot to our humanity. It speaks a lot to our sense of caring, the way we treat one another, the way we exchange, and the way our young people and our seniors are taken care of. I think we have done a remarkable job in that regard, and I think on the matters of health and education, the two big issues in development, we have shown that we are au fait with all of the challenges, and we have been able to deal with those. I want then to say to you that having presented this, I will leave it for us to have further discussion. Thank you very much.
It's a lot of information to digest, and I'm sure you're well informed. And of course, you'll have the opportunity in a while to pose questions to the Honorable Hensley Daniel. Let's give him another round of applause. Our next presenter is the Honorable Patrice Nisbet. He is the Attorney General of St. Kitts and Nevis and the representative for the constituency of St. James and St. Thomas parishes in the Federal Parliament. He has been an attorney at law since 1995, and at this time I'd like for you to please give him a round of applause as he comes to address you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your words of introduction. Let me say good night to Nevisians living here in St. Maarten. Thank you for coming out in your numbers to listen to the Nevis Island administration on the progress that is being made in the island of Nevis at this time. I would want to apologize for the absence of the Honorable Premier, who could not be here this evening. However, he sends his best wishes to the Nevisians living here in St. Maarten, and he has entrusted us with the responsibility of reporting on his behalf. We believe that it is very important that the diaspora understand and support the various programs and various initiatives that the Nevis Island administration has undertaken in the best interests of the people of Nevis. We have not been in government for a very long time, but I want to say to you that length in government does not determine the rate of development. Length does not determine the level of prosperity that a country enjoys. I believe that you play a critical role in the development of Nevis, although you are some distance from Nevis. It is very important that the government or those in leadership positions come as often as possible to report to you on how those that lead they are leading Nevis on the various development and also to report on the stewardship of the Nevis Reformation Party in government. The Nevis Reformation Party has been a good steward of the economy in rough times and stormy times. It has been said that the economy is in shambles. Maybe you've heard that. But the inconvenient truth for the opposition, ladies and gentlemen, is that N.R.P. has performed in government. How could the economy in Nevis be in shambles when over 700 plus people were re-engaged at the Four Seasons Resort? If I take you back, you would remember that the Concerned Citizens Movement in government inherited a luxury liner in 1992. The Four Seasons Resort was just opened and money was flowing in Nevis. They were able to leverage that money. Instead of using it wisely, they wasted an opportunity to move Nevis forward. They increased the debt. And increasing the debt of itself is not really a bad thing. But unnecessary waste is indeed very bad. The projects, they were over budgeted, cost overruns, and you got poor quality. When last have you been to Nevis and you would see the condition of the road from Cotton Ground to Newcastle? And as we would say, some projects were done once, twice, and even 3 times. And this added to the cost of the project and added also to the debt situation in Nevis. The CCM for us left behind the following legacy. More than $160 million in overspending by the former administration, which was not appropriated for by the Assembly as required by law, leading to questions of corruption being asked. An 80-acre land scandal, water shortages and poor quality water, a 50-year monopoly granted to an offshore medical school, poor housing stock, lack of social programs, and a high food import bill. When N.R.P. got in government in 2006, we were faced with the debt. Then the global financial and economic crisis. Then the hurricane that damaged the Four Seasons Resort. People in Nevis were laid off. Businesses were suffering. And the agriculture sector was critically wounded. Those were the circumstances that J.W. Parry and his men had to govern under. The N.R.P., ladies and gentlemen, have been good stewards of the resources it inherited and has been able to adopt a clear strategy that has kept the country safe and stable in uncharted waters. The Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation became important in an economic model that ensures stability. Cherry Gardens, a government housing project, provided honest construction work for unemployed men. The government partnered with a company called Brownhill Communications, call center type activity, so that it was open to provide employment especially for young women laid off from the Four Seasons Resort. Today, I can report to you, over 200 persons are employed at Brownhill Communication. We were able by initiatives implemented by the government to weather the economic storm of the day. The consequences of the closure of the Four Seasons have already been highlighted by the Honorable Hensley Daniel. But I must say tonight that we must credit Joseph Walcott Parry for ensuring that the hotel is reopened today. He has delivered. He was able, as a good steward of time and resources to successfully negotiate, and now the luxury liner is sailing the high seas again. 700 plus families are actively employed at the Four Seasons Resort. You can well imagine the spin-off in the economy of those reclaimed jobs and new jobs. The economic fundamentals in Nevis are sound. People are investing in Nevis again. And Mr. Daniel has highlighted a number of investments to come in Nevis. But one I would say to you tonight, recently you saw the opening of a brand new Value Mart right there on the road going to Long Point at the Deepwater Harbor. This is a demonstration of confidence in the government of Nevis. Statistics for 2009 show that 212 new businesses were created in Nevis. In 2010, 135 new businesses were added. These statistics indicate the upward swing in the economy of Nevis. So when they say that the economy is in shambles, I say to you, the statistics and the development that is happening in Nevis paint a totally different picture. I would want to touch on something that has been bandied about and has been spoken about a lot. And it's the fact that I serve as the Attorney General in the Federal Cabinet. And yes, I am a member of the Federal Cabinet, which is headed by Prime Minister the Honorable Denzil Douglas. But I come from the Nevis Reformation Party, a party from Nevis. And you're well aware of the history, and I don't need to get into that tonight. But following the 2010 general elections, I was approached by the Prime Minister to serve in his cabinet in the capacity as Attorney General and Minister of Justice. They made a song and dance about the fact that I am a part of the federal administration. But let me tell you tonight that I run elections to win. I do not run elections to lose. What's more, as a winner, I know that once you win, you must be prepared to lead and work with other leaders. As a winner, I recognize the value of replacing the spirit of confrontation evident in campaigns with the spirit of consultation required for governance. I was elected because the people believe that I could deliver on their behalf. They trusted my judgment. And in my judgment, the best way that I could deliver is to be a part of a government. Can't deliver in the opposition. To work with the leadership of that government to the benefit of my people. And so I went to Bastia. And I went with the consent of the people who elected me and the party to whom I belong. And today, we can boast in Nevis of the one-to-one laptop program. We brought laptops to the children of Nevis. We want to bridge the digital divide and promote digital equity in Nevis. Pause for cause. We want to ensure that our young people are able to compete in an information-driven world. To this end, each fifth farmer and all the second and third and fourth farmers and first farmers receive laptops. Also, 137 sixth farmers were the recipient of a laptop each. In the short and medium term, this program is an investment in the young people and the communities they live in. In the long term, this program is an investment in the economy of Nevis. I went to Bastia, and one of the first things I did was to bring home corporate taxes to Nevis. Businesses that were operating in Nevis, and they were paying their taxes at the federal government. Nevis has been trying that since the 1980s. It took me 8 months in the federal cabinet to bring a bill to the National Assembly that states that businesses operating in Nevis will pay corporate taxes to the Nevis Island Administration. A major achievement, ladies and gentlemen, realized in a short space of time. The Honorable Premier said that this action has added $10 million to the coffers of the Nevis Island Administration, making Nevis more financially sound. With the added revenue, government can and has done more for the people of Nevis. Nevisians in St. Maarten, we have moved from an era of confrontation to one of consultation. No need for the acrimonious relationship between the people of Nevis and the people of St. Kitts. We are too closely tied for that. Nevisians see doctors in St. Kitts. The ferries make multiple trips daily. We are indeed one people. And so, the Nevis Reformation Party has introduced this new doctrine of consultation. We also assisted in terms of the reopening of the Four Seasons. The Premier had called at one point in time and indicated that the Nevis Island Administration needed assistance of the federal government as the negotiation had broke down among the creditors, and an action was brought in Four Seasons blocking the foreclosure on the property of Four Seasons in Nevis. The NIA, as a result of its interest, intervened. And when an experience was encountered, and they wanted someone to go to Delaware to give evidence, we provided that human resource from the AG's chambers in Bastia. And one counselor, senior counselor, Mr. Gosai, was able to go there. And he was able to put a human face on the situation and the possible repercussions if the hotel remained closed. 40% of the GDP of Nevis was at stake. And after the judge considered all the matter, you know, the rest is history, and the hotel opened in December of that year. And because of the closer relationship and working together with the federal government, we have been able to achieve a number of things. And I want to say to you tonight, and I want to remind you tonight, when both governments don't work together, this is what happened. For 14 years, the CCM was in power. There was no major foreign direct investment in Nevis. When investors in the international community understand that both governments are on the same page, you hear an Amand is coming to Nevis. Investors respond to these things. They don't like the level of instability and the acrimony between two governments. And so I say to you, a better working relationship between both administrations has brought results to the people of Nevis. Security was a concern in Nevis, and the Premier, or whoever he is, has the lead responsibility for security on the island of Nevis. And traditionally in Nevis, we have not invested in police housing or transportation. But the present NIA administration has prioritized these areas. And so, a healthy and a more productive relationship has worked out the mechanics in order to facilitate that. In the past, Nevis has charged the federal government with sending insufficient numbers of law enforcement officers to Nevis. The federal government has answered that the reason for that is that Nevis cannot house more officers. And so what was the response of the N.R.P.-led NIA? We built barracks at Bath and at Butlers. And we built a spanking new brand facility at Cotton Ground. Case closed. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the NIA has also increased the number of vehicles to do mobile patrols in Nevis. And so you can sleep at nights now with much more ease. In the past, most of the police officers came from St. Kitts. And as soon as they were off duty, they caught the ferry back to Bastia. We have incorporated law enforcement officials in our housing program. We have ensured as a policy initiative that homes are allocated to law enforcement officials. When you go at Cherry Gardens, you will see this. And so if you know an officer lives on the corner, you are less likely to engage in criminal activity. By our policy, the law enforcement, instead of going to Bastia, they stay in the communities. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this means more security for our people. The Nevis Reformation Party's contract with the people promised that we would build 300 low to middle income homes for Nevisians. We promised that in our manifesto. I stand here tonight proud to report to you that we have reached in excess of 300 homes constructed so far. In 6 short years, we have built approximately an average of 74 homes per year, compared with an average of 8 homes per year under the previous administration. And that is why we say performance matters and N.R.P. is best for Nevis. Our flagship housing development, which we call Cherry Gardens, and to those of you who don't know where that is located, that is in the Prospect area. We have also built homes in Maddens, Shaw's Road, Golden Grove, which is in Low Ground, Brown Hill, Eden Brown, Stony Grove, Hamilton, Church Ground, Ramsbury, Cotton Ground, and Jessops. When I look in the back of the room tonight, I can see a person from St. Maarten who is a proud homeowner in the island of Nevis today. Our critics have stated that the houses are not affordable. But I can tell you, all of them have been sold. And hundreds remain in line for theirs. In a new term, we pledge to double our efforts to continue to provide more homes for our citizens. Our transparent land distribution program has borne fruit in that we have been able to allocate and distribute in excess of 1,000 parcels of land to the people of Nevis. We have given land to farmers for production. We have created an industrial estate at Low Ground, which they call Proslow, which was geared towards startup businesses and established businesses. Also in the New River area, we have distributed land to persons who are interested in establishing different types of enterprises. The administration has also distributed land throughout Nevis to persons who desire to own a piece of the rock to construct their own homes. And this is separate and apart from the lands that are allocated under the affordable housing program. We have ensured that as the distributions are done, the attendant physical infrastructure is put in to the comfort and convenience of the would-be homeowners, all in an effort to empower the people and build communities that are conducive to family life. I need to remind you, people of St. Maarten, Nevisians, that we were able to introduce a program whereby first-time buyers of land from the NHLDC were able to purchase land at a meager sum of $3.50 per square foot. So if you have not bought land in Nevis now, you can come and avail yourself of that program. We brought the price of land down from $5.75 a square foot to $3.50 a square foot. If you don't believe me, go and apply and you will become the beneficiary under that program. Agriculture, ladies and gentlemen, I will say something briefly. I will say, first of all, cotton is backed in Nevis, and that is as a result of the premium price that it is fetching on the world market at this time. And so, we are now exporting cotton in Nevis. This industry has created jobs and needed income in the country. We have also launched a Buy Local campaign, identified with a red label and a mountain image. These signify Nevis products. We have invested $1 million Eastern Caribbean dollars into an agro-processing facility to ensure packaging and quality controls. We can now package our own jams, jellies, and pepper sauce. We are also packaging ground beef. When you want a patty in Nevis, or also when you need your hamburgers, the beef that is used, that is all locally produced. So we don't need to import that type of product into the island of Nevis anymore. We are now self-sufficient in the production of onions, and also you can have a ready supply of lettuce in the local market. There is this pending fisheries project that is to be built in Charlestown, funded by the Japanese government. We would hope that this project will transform the way we do fishing, transform it from the days of John, from the Bible days, to a more modern approach to the fishing industry. And I want tonight to briefly say to you what are some of the components of this new fisheries project that has created some stir in the economy. I think they have the Hobson families trying to block the project purely based upon political means. You all know the bugs, you all know down there. They have never developed that for the last 50 years, ladies and gentlemen. But this project will consist of one, a repair and maintenance unit, a fish processing unit, a marine refueling component, a dive tank recharging unit, and it will also contain lockers for 27 fishers. I hope this project comes soon to Nevis, because it's a number of millions of dollars that will be spent in the local economy in the construction of this facility. In agriculture, we have also started to use greenhouse technology, and at the same time, we have gone into fish farming in a big way in the agricultural sector in Nevis. Those are some of the things that we have been doing in the agricultural sector. I would want to say to you tonight that the country is in safe hands with Premier Parry. The ship of state has ridden the waves of a relentless opposition. The opposition reminds me of Sambalat in the Bible. Everything they oppose that is good for Nevis and for the people of Nevis. a global financial crisis, the closure of the Four Seasons, and notwithstanding the adversity, you can see that fair winds are on the way. It would be inappropriate at this time to change course in Nevis. Things now look bright. The future looks bright. And it is clear for all to see that we have come out of a difficult time. Geothermal energy is on the horizon. Wind energy is already there. And the other things that Henry Daniel mentioned tonight are indeed on the horizon to advance the development of Nevis. We have positioned the various sectors of the economy for the forward push. Health and social programs are being developed. Cheaper and cleaner energy to drive the productive sectors of the economy is being harnessed. Additional offshore educational facilities are expected. Another tourism plant, the Amand, is to be expected. All these will build a solid economy in Nevis. I believe that we have tried to give you a full report tonight as to what is happening. We like to say in the Nevis Reformation Party that it is ideas that run things and not age. We believe that we have the perfect blend of youth and experience. We have been able with this blend to deliver on behalf of the people of Nevis in 6 years. After our humble submissions tonight, we invite you to come home to Nevis and feel the progress, touch the projects that we have done. Go to Cherry Gardens, see the reality. We urge you to ignore destructive criticism from those who have not or cannot perform. When you retire here or wherever, you may want to return to Nevis where the environment is conducive to healthy and affordable living. You would want to return to Nevis where the streets would not cause major damage to your vehicle and where the economy would not be such that you may not be able to find employment or establish a business of your choice. You would want to return to Nevis where you would feel safe in your homes at nights and during the daytime. For these reasons, it is very important that you play an active role in shaping the various development programs and supporting those who would carry them out. We have demonstrated tonight that in 6 years, you can do major things for your country if you're serious about government. I hope I have demonstrated the results that can be achieved when there is a good working relationship among government stakeholders. I went to Bastia, and I believe I have been able to deliver on behalf of the people of Nevis. I want you people to judge us based upon our record. Don't judge us based upon how we sound. Because you could sound good, and you're not good. And you're not delivering. So examine the record. And I want to say to you tonight that it is a record of performance, a record of delivering on behalf of the people of Nevis, and a record of good representation for the people of the country. In 6 years, we have brought the goods home to the people of the country. I ask for your continued support tonight. The time is coming. The hour of reckoning is coming when you will be called upon to decide who lead. You have leadership in the N.R.P.-led Nevis Island administration that you can trust. Leadership that has performed. Leadership that understands what it takes to propel a country forward. Premier Parry and his team have led in a difficult time. They say it's only in difficult times that you can test a man. Martin Luther King said, You really know the mettle of a man when there are moments of discomfort. In difficult times, you and the people of Nevis sought the N.R.P. N.R.P. weathered the storm. That is why it is so easy to ask you to continue to support us. So easy for you to continue to give that support. To those who have not given it in the past, having been here tonight, it should be easier to give it now. And so I ask you to get on board with our policies and our programs and support us. Compare and contrast. Criticism and promises with performance. It is there for all to see. Continue, I say to you, with the men and women of the Nevis Reformation Party. Good night and God bless you.
Thank you very much. Now, it's not every day that you get the opportunity, not residing in Nevis, to have your representatives in government come and sit and deliver a report on their performance. And for that, I'd like for you to really let them know what you thought of their presentations with a resounding round of applause to both of them. More importantly, though, you now have the opportunity to actually question them on the report, on what they presented this evening. And we're going to do it very simple. I'm going to just ask a few things of you. The first, you're going to be able to pose your questions, make your statements, or give comments. The only thing we'll ask is that you keep it short so that more persons get the opportunity to come and pose questions, and that you also be courteous and respectful in the manner in which you pose the questions or the comments to the officials. At this time, when you're posing questions, you'll come up to the microphone here and pose your question to whichever one of the representatives you wish to pose your question to. Are we ready for the questions? Now, no one ever wants to be the first, right? Yeah, someone always wants someone to go first. So. I'm not from Nevis, so I cannot go first. Sorry? Where am I from? I'm originally from Anguilla, but this is a paid job. I'm your moderator for the evening, so my role is simply to facilitate this evening's discussion. I'm not a politician, I'm not from Nevis. I'm simply the facilitator for the evening. Now I see you came and sat close, which means you have a question. Okay. No, you'll have to come up here and pose your question.
Good evening. Now, I've been listening to what Honorable Nisbet been saying, and quite impressive, eh? However, I have one question to ask, because we had an election and the N.R.P. area or government was basically condemned by the courts. Now, I would like to know, with all of these nice things that the N.R.P. did, I would like to get some explanation from the Attorney General, because I mean that's a heavy portfolio, so to speak. What he will have to tell us, the people, about the condemnation of the courts where this particular area in Nevis went totally wrong. Now, it was the court condemned it, so I would like to really get an understanding from the Attorney General what this thing is all about. Thank you.
You can sit there and just respond with the microphone. Make it much easier.
Thank you very much for your question, and thank you very much for your commendation. But Let me first of all say that I have the judgment of the court here, and I can't see anywhere in the judgment where the N.R.P government was condemned by the court. Maybe you would have to read the judgment and point out to me exactly where the court condemned the N.R.P government. What the court did was to speak to the actions of the electoral officials. The electoral officials are not appointed by the N.R.P government. Those electoral officials are appointed by the supervisor of election, who is appointed by the Governor General after consultation with the Prime Minister, the Premier, and the leader of the opposition. And what happened in this case is that those who are charged with ensuring that the electoral process is run smoothly did not carry out their tasks in accordance with the relevant legislation. They didn't carry out the task with the relevant legislation. And as a matter of fact, what they did was what was being done in Nevis for a very long time. And it so happened that this matter was taken to court, and as a result of it being taken into court, certain things were highlighted. And so the court rendered decisions on certain matters. And all this case dealt with effectively was the issue of process. One has to follow a particular procedure that is laid down by the legislative scheme. And so the court is saying, if you don't follow the procedure that is laid down by the legislative scheme, well then you are in contravention of that legislative scheme. And the Nevis Reformation Party did not appoint those officials who were appointed to carry out those tasks.
Did that suffice did that provide sufficient clarity for you?
No, I think somewhat, but politics again. I mean, we all know how politics goes.
Okay.
And we know how the leaders,
well, I'm going to actually,
listen.
I think your statement alone, politics, is enough to I don't know if the AG wants to respond to that, but I don't know if he wants to respond to the politics part, but
no, but politics, I mean, the politics part about this thing is that leaders, because the gentleman talk about also the German thing. I mean,
I didn't give you a political answer, you know. I gave you a legal answer.
you give it.
You give me certain facts, fine. But politics also have a lot to do in between all of those wranglings that you're giving me there. So
Okay.
I know what the game is all about.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Good night. I'm not so sure if it's a question, but it seems to me that the question that was asked in relation to what was or what is happening in Nevis was purposely avoided. I felt that not only the people from Nevis who are living here in St. Maarten, but everyone needs to know exactly what happened. And I know that there are many sides to it and everybody's going to put their own twist, but I felt that the initiative should have come from both panelists to address this forthwith without having to get this from the floor. Then, in my mind, I felt like it was being avoided. I don't know if any one of you want to speak to that.
Let me see if I understand you. I want you to be very clear as to what you say we are avoiding. I want you to be very clear as to what we're avoiding, because you be very specific, and then I would address it, because if I don't know what I'm avoiding, I can't answer to satisfy you. If I am clear as to what you say I'm avoiding, I will answer you. So I'd prefer if you be clear and then let me answer.
Okay. You want to be more clear in your question?
I really don't know how much clearer I can be, but to be honest with you, I was probably making a statement rather than asking a question. Let me finish. It's an issue that is big in the Caribbean, in the region. Everybody's been talking about it. We don't know too much of what's going on because we live here. And I feel that getting this kind of information from second sources usually don't bring all the facts that are playing in this. But you came here tonight and you did exactly what you came to do, I suggest, because you were addressing what you have done on behalf of Nevis. But you are well aware that there is that concern out there. And I felt that you should have addressed it rather than getting it from the floor. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Let me answer you this way, okay? There is the electoral process in Nevis, which basically governs the qualifications of voters and voters' entitlement to vote. We have what we call the National Assembly Elections Act and its regulations, and also the Constitution. The basic point about registration is this. You are supposed to register in the constituency where you reside or where you live. Okay? There are 5 constituencies on the island of Nevis, and so if you live in camps in St. James's, you are expected or you are required by law to register in that part of the constituency. Okay? Also, we do have a part of our electoral law, provisions for citizens who live abroad to register by means of your domicile. And what the law basically says is that if you were domiciled in a particular village or community in a constituency before you left Nevis, and if you wish to register, you will be allowed to be registered back in that area that you left before you went abroad. There's also a system of objections where if it is discovered that a person is registered in a constituency where they have never lived or where they no longer reside, well then that person can be objected to. That objection would either take place on a monthly list or an annual review of the voters list. Our system provides that every January a register of voter is produced. It's a requirement by law. And so every person in that register of voter, his or her registration can in fact be objected to. And so you have 10 days after that list is published to note your objections. Okay? And so what happens is that the political parties, as part of their vigilant process, as part of ensuring that the voters list is accurate and people vote where they reside as required by law, they engage in an exercise of objecting to voters or objecting to people's registration. So you have that. The way how the framework is set up, you have a registration officer. He or her, for that constituency or that area, will hear the objection. Persons will come and persons will give evidence as to whether the person who is objected to live in the constituency. After all the evidence is adduced, all the evidence is led, a determination is made by the registration officer if that person remain on the list or that person is taken off the list, basically. And so the political parties are effectively just being vigilant. It is not the political parties who take names off lists. That is the function of either the chief registration officer or the registration officer for that particular district or that particular constituency, effectively. What happened in Nevis was that you had a January list, if my recollection serves me right, and a number of objections were done in this particular constituency, in the St. John's constituency. Also, at the same time, those who were charged with administering the electoral process, they were not publishing what we call in the law the revised monthly list, as stipulated by law. They were not doing that. And so, as a matter of fact, the evidence suggests it was never done for a number of years. That's not just at that time. As a result of the objections, pursuant to the regulations, there are certain timelines within which when the person who is objected to should receive that notice of objection and the notice of hearing and the time of hearing. I think he needs about 5 days notice of that. The court found that in certain instances, those persons whose names were objected to, some of them objected to, they were not given the notice in accordance with the legislation. The court found that. As a matter of fact, some of them even received the notice based upon what was said in the court after the hearing took place. Okay? Those are some of the things that the court found in relation to the issue of notice. The registration officer took a particular view that once she posts the notice, put it at the post office, she thought that she had carried out her duty according to law, based upon what we call the postal rule, some rule that we have in the law. The court took a different view in relation to that. The court basically said that before you embark upon that objection hearing, you have to be satisfied in your mind that that person has in fact received the notice or the notice of the hearing, basically. Court took a different view. And so, those are some of the issues that came up as a result of the hearing in that election petition matter. And so, to my mind, I don't think that it is right to say that the Nevis Reformation Party, I don't even remember what his comment was, the Nevis Reformation Party is somewhere at fault for what transpired. It is simply based upon the court judgment that I have read, and I've read it several times. Those who were charged with administering the electoral process did not carry out their duties in accordance with the relevant legislation. And you can't blame political parties, whether it is CCM or N.R.P, for being vigilant to ensure that people register in constituencies that they reside in. Because there was evidence before the court that some of the persons who were objected to no longer reside and never resided in that constituency. As a matter of fact, you would look at you could see affidavits. But the court, in my mind, sidestepped that issue. They never dealt with that issue as to whether those persons live in the constituency or not. The court basically dealt with the issue of procedure. And as a result of making certain findings, the court declared the seat in that constituency null and void.
Do we have other questions? You have a question? Please come forward.
I would just like to ask this question. Because of the problem and the court ruling, are we going to have a full election again? Are we going to just have an election for the place that have the problem in that constituency? Yeah, a by-election, in other words.
We're going to have a general election where the entire island will vote. For the simple reason that we are discussing national issues, and everybody must get a chance to vote on these national issues. When we speak to the question of geothermal, all of the matters we discuss have to do with everybody. And so we shall have a general election. The Premier has already advised the Governor General to dissolve the Parliament, because I think my colleague Patrice, being the lawyer, can advise that it says where the seat of a member falls vacant, there must be a by-election, which means just for that district, within 90 days, unless Parliament is sooner dissolved. So we have sooner dissolved the Parliament, and we shall have a general election.
Thank you. Any more questions? A lot more? Then please come up and let's have the questions. We don't want to be here all night, so let's get the questions rolling so we can... No, but for the camera and the live streaming, we're streaming live to Nevis, so you'd have to come and speak into the microphone so they can get it properly.
Good night. I don't know which one of you will answer this question. Mr. Vance Amory was here some Saturday ago. He said the geothermal, you all are in courts with some West Indies government, so I would like to know if that is true.
West Indies Power.
Whatever.
No, West Indies Power is the company that began the development of geothermal energy. And as a result of its work, it has led the way in moving the process forward. However, there are some issues in relation to the developers, the financiers, and so we have gone to court, as I mentioned in the presentation, to get some of these obstacles out of the way so that we can move the process forward. Okay.
Okay, any more questions? Another question? Some more?
To the Attorney General, if I'm a supporter of the N.R.P. and I don't have information about what's going on, I don't even know how to begin defending what has happened in Nevis with regards to the same issue that you speak to a moment ago. But it's still not clear to me, out of all that you've said tonight, what both sides are. And I don't expect you to make it clear within a very short period of time. But I think that the people of Nevis that lives in St. Maarten, while you're here, deserve to understand what exactly happened and whether or not this government was at fault for what happened, or the gentleman speak about the court ruling. I'm not too clear about what happened there, but apparently, as a result of what happened, we have to have a new election. And I'm only saying that if we are properly informed as to what really happened, then we can defend a cause. When you don't know, how can you're just left in the dark. How can you really, defend an N.R.P. as such?
To the AG, in short, he wants to say, in a nutshell, How can a supporter of N.R.P. defend N.R.P. against these so-called allegations? You said a lot, but in there somewhere, you gave in a nutshell exactly how they should do it. And that's what he wants to hear again. Again, it was said already. It was said already. You probably didn't understand it, but he said exactly what it is. That's why I'm asking for it now in a nutshell. He did say, well, I'm going to let him, I'm not going to say what he said. I'm just the moderator. But just say it in a nutshell so everyone understands. So let's say it in layman's terms.
I thought in my presentation, the very lengthy presentation that I gave, I sought to distill what were the issues that came up as a result of what transpired in the St. John's constituency. I thought I was very clear as to what were the allegations. I didn't try in any way to embellish them. I was very clear as to what was pleaded in the matter, what were the findings of the court, and what was the reasoning the court used in order to arrive at its decision. What I said was not an invention of mine. What I said is what is contained in this document here. It's not I inventing anything, because I'm not going to mislead you. I have a responsibility as the Attorney General to ensure that you have a proper understanding of what the legal issues are, and try as much as possible in layman language to impart those legal issues and what are the legal consequences of the particular factual situation when you apply the law. And so, in a nutshell, this is what transpired in Nevis. As a simple, the electoral officials in Nevis, they are not appointed by whoever is in government in Nevis. So if CCM is in power, CCM don't appoint the electoral officials. If N.R.P. is in power, N.R.P. don't appoint them. They are appointed, the registration officers, they are appointed by what we call the supervisor of election. The supervisor of election is a constitutional creature. That position or office is created by the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis. The supervisor of election, whom he or she maybe, is appointed by the Governor General after consultation with the Prime Minister, the Premier, and the leader of the opposition. That is how he or she is appointed. Then he appoints who will do the registration, be registration officers. The registration office, one of the duties of a registration officer is to hear objections to registration. One of his duties. Okay? There is the law, the act, and the regulations. The regulations and the act are to guide the procedure that he or she has to follow. In Nevis, the court said that in removing the names from the electoral roll, the proper procedure was not followed by the registration officer. The court never said that the proper procedure was not followed by N.R.P. or CCM. The court clearly said it was the registration officers who, or that particular registration officer, did not comply with the legal requirements as stipulated by the relevant legislation. And so I don't know if in that you can conclude that the Nevis Reformation Party is at fault, or any party is at fault in that factual matrix. I don't know if you can conclude that. Maybe by an extrapolation of logic, you might be able to do that. But that would be a leap or a jump of logic. Because one has to understand clearly what the court said. It's not what the AG said, it's not what Mr. Daniel said. It is what the judges of the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal opine in that matter.
Does that satisfy your, that's good enough for you now? So in short, I cannot be blamed for something I'm not responsible for. Okay? Do we have any more questions? No more questions? One more question, Roger?
Again, they talk about what the word? Geothermal. Now, a while ago, the gentleman says that someone was called, one party was called overseas and says, yeah, but now a question was asked, and now they are in courts, and it doesn't seem to me that it really adds up. No, different parties. No. You said one party called and tried to stop this movement. Now, a question was asked if this is true, and I'm not getting it clear. So, can you put some clarity, please?
Sure. There are two sets of issues. The first one I mentioned to that while we were getting a guarantee from Exim Bank, the Export-Import Bank of the United States government, which is really an agency to facilitate international economic development. The bank, with emails from members of the opposition in Nevis, was advised to hold on to the project because in their view, the project would have meant feathers in the cap or a great leap forward for the party. Now, that is a narrow concept of geothermal energy. It will mean a feather in the cap and reduce electricity bill for everybody, not just people in the government. The second issue you mentioned about the matter in court has to do with the company, West Indies Power Limited, which was developing the geothermal project and its interest in controlling geothermal in the geothermal project in Nevis. So the government, after several negotiations going back and forth, has decided to ask the court to move the West Indies Power control out of the way so that the process can go forward where we engage the financiers and so on. Part of the sticking problem has to do with West Indies Power laying a claim to a certain amount of interest in the geothermal project for which they want to be compensated. So it's not the same player, okay? One with the opposition party is the one which sent the emails to Exim Bank to say to stop the project. This one has to do with the geothermal project where the company, West Indies Power, in our mind, is stalling the process. And so we've asked the court to rule on it. Okay?
Okay, any more questions? Okay. There seem to be no more questions for the panelists up front. They're having their own debate down there, so. Last time, any more questions for our panelists? If no more questions, I'd like to take this. One more question? Okay. And this would be the final question, okay?
Just question is to AJ. I would like to ask him for St. James, where I'm from, what plans he have for St. James? Otherwise than some dog farmer, I hear him say, Sissy, I'm coming with.
Since 2006, we have sought to bring development to the constituency in St. James's. You will realize one of the first things that we did in St. James's was to start and construct and complete the Island Main Road, because we understood that the road to development is the development of roads. And so we will continue to improve the physical infrastructure in St. James, improve the road network. Roads like Charles Road needs to be done. We need to connect the village of Fountain to the village of Newcastle and the village of Rawlings Pasture. The road from Westbury to Camps needs to be done. We have done some rehabilitation work on it, but we need to complete it in terms of building the necessary bridges that are required to ensure that when it rains heavy, people will not experience difficulty getting to their homes. One of the things that the constituency has been crying out for is a daycare and early childhood facility. We presently have plans drawn in order to satisfy this particular need in the constituency. I think at present they have to go to St. Thomas's, which is the nearest place, where they can avail themselves of this particular type of service. And it is proving to be difficult for some persons in the constituency. And so we will try to bring some relief in this area. Of course, we will continue our housing program and our land distribution program, because these are very critical. We believe in people empowerment. We believe that it's important that our people own a piece of the rock. And we have seen the pride and joy that our new homeowners have. I always see the beam in their face when they collect their keys from the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation to their new property. And so we would want to ensure that the constituency continue to attract businesses. We would hope that the geothermal energy comes on board so that you can have some industry is attracted to St. James's, so that people can live and work in the constituency. I mean, most of the people in St. James, they go out of the constituency to work, and we would want in some way to change this by bringing in some meaningful development. We will hope that the marina project at Sea Haven, the marina project at Sea Haven would get started. I know that there are some discussions on the way for that development to take shape. One of the things that we have been looking at is that St. James has 3 hotels: Nisbet Plantation, Wally Beach, and Mount Nevis. Over the last decade, we have not seen any major investment in these properties. And so we would want to encourage an N.R.P.-led Nevis Island administration to offer the requisite concession and incentives so that these facilities or these properties can expand. And an expansion in a hotel would definitely mean job creation for the people in the constituency. Most of these hotels, they employ people from St. James's. And so we would want more people to be engaged at these facilities throughout the constituency. We also would want to roll out a number of people empowerment programs from the community centers that we have constructed in the constituency. We understand that there is a scarcity of certain trades in Nevis, in that people may know how to do certain things, but in terms of the certification and understanding the theory, that sometimes is a problem, and also understanding the business side of certain trades is lacking in the community. And so we would want to use the community centers as centers of learning, centers of training for the young people in the constituency. We also would want to continue our programs in terms of educational development for the young people. A number of young persons from St. James have availed themselves of the programs that we have in terms of education and training, and we would want more young people to come on board so that they can be trained, whether they are trained locally, regionally, or internationally, if that is the case. Because we believe that the way our people can achieve social and upward mobility in the society is through education and training. And so we would want to continue in that particular vein in terms of the development of the constituency. We have in fact developed the constituency from coast to coast. St. James is a different place under the Nevis Reformation Party. The wind farm is there. The drag strip is there. The lunch program, the school meals program, they are in homework assistance program, they're all there for the people of St. James's. So we have done meaningful things to touch lives and transform lives in the constituency. And we would want to continue these things. We don't want no dog farm in St. James. We want meaningful employment for the people of St. James. When you go to sixth form, I don't believe you should become a dog trainer. I believe that you should be able to make an effective and a productive contribution to the development of your community and to the development of Nevis by extension.
Gentlemen, I'd like to give each of you 1 minute to give closing remarks.
Okay, I would like to thank all of you for coming and for listening to us and for engaging us with the questions. I only want to say one thing to the callers who ask about the court case. I sat through the 2 weeks of the trial. I only knew what happened at the court. It's only at the court I knew what happened. So I had nothing to do with anything to do with the registration of voters. I only learned what happened at the court. That said, I want to think that we have laid out our case for the re-election of the Nevis Reformation Party, and I want to ask of you for your support to vote for us when the time comes. The time will be soon. You will be advised accordingly, and we will let you know. I have a suspicion that we may be back here before that time, but we would want you to identify with the large number of programs and projects that are on stream. We think that given the work we have done, we believe that we have made a case by virtue of work, by virtue of performance, to be re-elected. I usually say that those who work the midnight shift should be the first to eat breakfast because they work overnight, and that's what we've done. All of these projects have been conceptualized by us, and we want to be able to carry them forward. And we ask for your full support when the elections are announced. Thank you very much, and have a blessed evening.
Thank you. Let me first of all say that I am indeed grateful and humbled to be here to address the Nevisian diaspora residing in St. Maarten and to report to you on the progress that the Nevis Reformation Party in government has made since 2006. I believe that if you are a fair-minded person and you are a reasonable person, you can only conclude that the Nevis Reformation Party in government has advanced Nevis and most importantly has advanced the people of Nevis since 2006. If you are anyway reasonable, I believe after looking at Nevis now, from where we came from in 2006, the only clear and unequivocal answer that you can give in relation to the performance of the Nevis Reformation Party has to be, we have done a great job in Nevis. Let me say that I don't think you should be distracted or sidestepped by this court case. Don't think you should be distracted from the good work that your government has done in power. You don't win elections in the courts. You win elections by your record of performance. You win elections based upon how you have impacted, how you have used the trust that people have reposed in you when they elect you. I believe that we have been good stewards of that trust. We have utilized the resources of Nevis over the past years to advance the people of Nevis. And let no one come here and say that the N.R.P. is guilty by association as a result of what happened in the courts. Because the Nevis Reformation Party is not responsible for the compilation of voters' lists. It is not the responsibility of political parties. It is the responsibility of those who are charged with that duty under the relevant legislation. And so if you don't have the responsibility, you can't be called to account for that. They never took N.R.P. to court. When you look at the petition that was filed, it is the supervisor of election and the registration officials. Those names are on that petition. It is not the N.R.P. And so don't be sidetracked by that by saying that as a result of the N.R.P. being vigilant in ensuring that people register where they live, they are guilty by association if the procedure was not followed. The court said the procedure was not followed. And so we are at this juncture. We are at this juncture. And so notwithstanding that, we say to you, the people of Nevis here in St. Maarten, that is the decision of the court. We move forward based upon what the law says. It has been signaled that there will be a general election for the island of Nevis. You will not be asked to vote for what the court said. You will be asked to vote based upon what you see the Nevis Reformation Party in government has done for the Nevis and for the people of Nevis. And so, tonight, friends, well-wishers, and supporters, I say to you that the hour of reckoning is coming. I believe that we have presented our report card, and with a report card of performance, you can only give us an A+++. And as I say, it would be inappropriate at this time for the country to change direction. And so, based upon our performance, I say N.R.P. is best for Nevis and best for the people of Nevis. May God bless you and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. We're going to have some refreshments, of course. But before that, I'm going to ask Vinetta Lewis to please come forward to do a closing prayer. Vinetta Lewis. While she's coming, if we can just stand.
Good evening, everyone. It's almost midnight now. Good evening, everyone. At least we all came here and we are not too surprised. We're just feeling good, and they have spoken, and it's left to us now to do what is best to do for ourselves and for our children and for our country. Let us pray. Loving Father and God, tonight, as these gentlemen are about to left to go to our separate homes, these men, they have well spoken. And Lord God, you know that they tell the truth. And be with them. Be with us all. Continue to guide them and to protect them. Because when Satan cannot get at the church, they'll get at the leaders in government. And dear God, they need all the praise they can get, even at this time. They need the strength and the courage, the guidance and your protection to keep them going in this time of trouble. We come here tonight not to cause trouble, but to hear their point of views. They have well said, and we all have listened. I trust and hope tonight that everyone will find in their hearts to remember and to cast the vote rightly for the N.R.P. Because they give good performance, and they are well said and well done. And I love you guys. In Jesus' name, amen. Everybody go and have a nice night. Bye.
Thank you very much. Finally, we'd like to just thank both gentlemen one more time for being with us this evening and bringing their report card. Let's give them one final round of applause. And then, of course, we have to thank the organizing committee for putting this together this evening. And last but not least, thanks to each and every one of you for coming out and for participating. Please enjoy the refreshments, and when we're finished, please have a safe drive home. Good evening.
There was a time when people dare not utter a word. There was a time when people were in the dark and searching for accurate information. Just when all hope is lost and frustration hangs in the balance, SXMTalk emerges and broke the silence. Join host Christopher Emmanuel for live